everyone, today is August 25th, 2011, and it's been a while since I did my last video. That was in May, so I have a lot of exciting news and a lot to catch you all up on. So I'm going to kind of go back till May real quick and give you some updates of what's happened since then. And last time in my video I was talking about how I was waiting to get my ovulation test strips from BabyWishes.com. And I did get them in the mail. They did come in a big yellow envelope with bubble wrap, and they just literally came in a bag like this. And I got 50 of the ovulation and 10 of the pregnancy. And they do just look like this. Both of them come in the same looking packages. The only difference is that the ovulation one says LH Surge, like that one says, and the pregnancy one says HCG. In the package did come the little instructions of how to take, when to take, and the best time to take. And I was did follow those pretty closely to the T to make sure that, you know, I was doing everything correctly and to get the best results possible. And I did test, like I said, in May, June, and July. And I never got a really strong positive LH surge. For it to be positive, it's supposed to be darker than the control line. The test line is, and I never got that. I got one that was one time as dark as, but most of the time it was lighter than the control line. I don't know if that's just me or if it was the test. I didn't try any other brands of the test just because that's all I had, and I didn't feel like spending money. And plus, I could still tell when I had LH in my system because it did show up as a line. But so I did take those, and I think that they worked pretty well. I didn't have any issues with them. Like I said, I don't know if the dye wasn't dark enough or if it was just me. But I did take those. Fast forwarding to July 11th, that was me and my husband's 2-year anniversary, which is when we marked that we were going to start trying to build our family. So on July 17th, I did get my positive LH surge test. At 8:30 at night, and it actually happened to be on a Sunday. So it was July 17th, and I remember I was so excited. I ran and showed my husband. You know, I was like, look, I had my LH surge. I'll be ovulating tomorrow, so be ready. So he kind of thought of it, I was a dork, but I was pretty excited for it. And I actually kind of felt bad for him because that week he had some classes after work. He was really tired when he got home. He didn't get home till like 9:30, and here I was all excited, ready to make babies, and he wasn't quite in the mood. But anyway, it all worked out okay. So on the 18th and the 19th is when we tried to conceive, and on the 19th is when I calculated that I actually ovulated. Based on my test strips, I had my positive surge on Sunday night, so I calculated 24 to 48 hours afterwards that I would ovulate. So I was guessing that I ovulated on July 19th, which was a Tuesday. So after that day, I immediately started tracking any body symptoms that I might have, any changes, just to, you know, see if I could track any changes. So one day past ovulation, which was a Wednesday, I had a bad headache all day. Don't know if it was related or not, but I did have a really bad headache that day. 2 days past ovulation, nothing major. I just had a stuffy nose that day. 3 days past ovulation, I kind of felt really hot and kind of felt like I was having some hot flashes. Nothing major, but again, it was more than normal. 4 days past ovulation, again, I still felt like I was having those hot flashes. I do live in Georgia, so I don't know if it was just extra hot that day or if my body temperature was just really up, but I did feel hotter than normal. Again, I had a stuffy nose again. It was I kind of had a runny nose. So I don't know if it was allergies or what, but I did have a stuffy nose too. 5 days, I again had the stuffy, itchy, runny nose on 5 days past ovulation. And I was also kind of irritable that day. So I don't know if that's related, but pretty irritable. 6 days past ovulation, I actually started to test that day, which is really soon to test is 6 days, but you know, I was a nerd and I was really excited to start testing. And I guess too, I wanted to see what a baseline negative test looked like. So obviously I got a negative test 6 days past ovulation. But also on that day, I did have a twinge on my lower left side where I'm guessing it was about where my ovaries are. It was just a little twinge. It was quick and short, but it was kind of a sharp pain for a second there. And I also did feel very tired that day. I went to bed at 9:30, which is quite early for me, and I ended up sleeping till 7 a.m. And also that is the day that my chest started to feel a little tender, and normally my chest does feel tender when I'm about to start my period, so I didn't know really that it really didn't mean too much, but I did have sore chest that day. 7 days past ovulation, I tested again in the morning and it was negative, and I still did have my sore chest. 8 days past ovulation, tested again, still negative. But I also had a headache all day that day. And I had like a wave of nausea too that day where I kind of felt very tingly and kind of nauseous for about 5 seconds, and that kind of went away. And I just didn't feel good that day either. I had a headache and my chest was sore, and I ended up leaving work at 3:30, which is pretty early for me too. I just came home, took some Tylenol, took a nap after that. 9 days DPO. Again, this is kind of when I started to think something was happening and that I might be pregnant. Again, I had my sore chest. I had a backache when I woke up. I was very, very, very tired. And that day I actually started to cry on 3 separate occasions where I actually had tears welling up in my eyes just from thinking random sad thoughts, you know. And it wasn't anything major. It was just ridiculous. I'm kind of an emotional person, but this day was definitely crazy. I remember just thinking, what is wrong with me? I still had my stuffy nose, and also I made a note that I had metallic taste in my mouth that day, which also I read could be a sign of pregnancy. So 10 days DPO. Me and my husband actually stayed home from work that morning. I had a busy week at work, and like I said, I was just really tired and worn out from the week, and I have the ability to work from home some days. So I ended up just working from home that day, and my husband did the same thing. So I got up first thing and took a pregnancy test with him, and I had the faintest of faint positive lines, but there was a line. So I was all excited and trying to hold it up to the light and to the right angle to make sure, you know, that there was a line. And my husband could see it, but he wasn't quite convinced yet. I figured, well, we'll just kind of wait and see. But I did make a note, very faint line, I think I'm pregnant, in my journal that day. I also had some leg and foot cramps that day. Again, I had a sore back again. My chest was really, really, really swollen. Where I could definitely tell. So I kind of thought something was going on, but I thought I would just test again the next morning. So 11 days DPO, I tested again at 7 a.m. with my first morning urine. And I had still the faintest of faint lines, but there was still a line. But my husband still wasn't convinced because he wanted to see a dark positive line, and it just wasn't that yet. It was since I was only 11 days. It was just really, really faint. So I ended up going to CVS with one of my friends, and we bought a digital test that says pregnant or not pregnant. It came in a pack of 2 for $16, and it was just a generic CVS brand. And I was so excited, I ended up taking the test at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which I know is not a good time because it's not your first morning urine, and I was only 11 days, so I was still really early. So I was halfway thinking it was probably going to be negative, even if I was pregnant, just because my urine wasn't concentrated and it was too early. But to my surprise and my excitement, it did come up positive. So I immediately started bawling and screaming and jumping around. I was so excited. So just to see those words pregnant is so much more meaningful than trying to read a line, if there's a line, if there's not a line. So for me, it was definitely worth getting the expensive test at CVS that actually said pregnant. And to my husband too, that was his moment. He was like, oh wow, you are pregnant. So I highly recommend that. I'm going to hit 10 minutes here, so I'm going to finish up with part 2.